With most of the measures about this, like disclosure and buffer zones, I don't think there's as much concern from the industry on a voluntary measure. It's more about from the good neighbor, principle. If someone has concerns who farm or who lives or resides right next to our farms, we would like to work that out with those people.
First of all, correction, the road is 100 feet in the bill, not 500.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're all talking about what's in the amendment. It's 100.
So does that 100 feet from the public roads affect your?
Yeah, it cuts in about 100 feet into our fields, all along Kaua'i Road, some along the highway out by the shrimp farm.
So how many acres would be unusable?
Probably a couple hundred, just quick math.
Can you get that answer? What was it?
Probably a couple hundred.
Couple
200
hundred
acres. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Hoosier has the floor.
Yeah, the more we talk, the more confusing I get. The more confused the issue comes. So at Poley Holly and where you plant along the road, you plant with no buffer at all. You plant right up to the state land. Is that correct?
We plant, we have a fence about 20 foot off the ditch, and we can plant right up to the fence if we need to.
So, because you said you would take 100 feet out, so it wouldn't take 100 feet, it would take out 80 feet, because you have 20 feet.
Sure.
Right,
80.
so I'm just trying to get clear. I mean, if you're planting all the way up against the pavement, I just need to know that, so, because we're trying to figure out the impact, so.
We have some buffer already in place. We have there's the road, then the ditch, and then we have 20 foot voluntary that we've done already to do grass,
Okay. So you got
cover crop, and then a fence.
20 feet of ditch and stuff, and another 20 feet of buffer, so really we're only impacting you 60 feet. And you said we're impacting you 100 feet.
No, it's 20 foot, well, ditch, then, yeah.
Right, so I'm just, when you say that we're taking 100 feet away, we're not taking 100 feet away. We're taking, according to your math, about 60 feet away. Is that fair?
Yeah, in our case.
Yeah, in your case,
Sure.
okay. I'm just trying to get clear. I mean, we're
Yeah.
trying to do our job here
Mhm.
and understand the impacts on the industry as well as the impacts on the community, actually, obviously. You'd mentioned, I think you'd mentioned that you're okay with the governor's disclosure initiative. Is that correct?
Voluntary.
So you're okay
Disclosure
with
is a part of it.
voluntarily doing it, but not being made to do it? And the information would be the same, do you think? Would the community get the same information, whether it was voluntary, whether it was by ordinance?
I'm not sure. It might be very similar. That hasn't been presented in detail to me.
I'm just saying, if it's the same, anyway, my understanding with the governor's proposal, not only is it aggregate, it only affects restricted use pesticides. Are you willing to disclose general use pesticides, which is 75%, many would say is what you use?
I can't answer that because those conversations have not been posed to us yet.
Okay. You've mentioned that you're willing to accept buffer zones that the governor has proposed. And what about the buffer zones that they're in the bill right now? We talked about the roads. What about 500 feet from schools? Are you okay with that?
So the biggest difference the fundamental difference is between it being law or voluntary, because what happens in here, if it's law, it has ramifications much wider than just Kauai that our companies are interested in as well.
What kind of ramifications are those?
Of being adopted in other counties and states.
So you're concerned that other counties would also want to protect their schools? I'm sorry, I apologize.
Excuse me, Mr. Hoosier. I want to make sure that the audience understands. I'm very serious about the decorum in this room, especially as being the chair. So you have the floor, Mr. Hoosier.
Thank you.
Continue.
And I'll try not to be facetious, but
Sure.
it is what it is. Okay? I mean, it is what it is. We want to protect our schools. If other communities want to protect their schools,
Right.
I believe that they're entitled to do that. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we We want the schools and communities to be protected as well. We don't believe we're doing any harm. We don't believe that the evidence presented has clearly demonstrated that we have created harm. Therefore, for this to take effect as law when there has not been harm, it's just unsettling. It's not something that we can jump behind, okay? It's like, you know, finding someone guilty before having enough evidence.
And believe me, I understand the company's reluctance to embrace new regulation, okay? But I believe this is a modest attempt. And it's a little disconcerting when on one hand you say, and the industry says, we're willing to accept the governor's voluntary and this and that, and then you're not willing to be forthcoming dealing with this council. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.